Hey guys, it's Dusty, and here are 3 mistakes to avoid if you're a triathlete. So mistake number 1 is something not a lot of people talk about, but if you're a triathlete, especially a new triathlete, just know that there's no pressure on you to do an Ironman, if at all, during your triathlon career. Oftentimes people get into triathlon and within a couple of races they'll already have their friends berating them as to when they're going to sign up and do a full Ironman, or have you done that race in Hawaii yet? And you know what? You don't have to do a full Ironman if you don't want to. You can stick to sprints, you can stick to Olympic distance, you can stick to half Ironmans if you want. Don't feel the pressure to go out and train for a full Ironman. Some people don't like doing that distance, and lots of people just don't have the time to put in the proper training to get them to that finish line. If you are on the fence about doing a full Ironman, I definitely recommend it. It's a pretty cool experience getting to that finish line, especially when you train properly. But just remember, ultimately, it's up to you what races and what distances that you want to do. Mistake number 2 is common amongst all triathletes, all experience levels and abilities, and that is this obsession to buy the latest and greatest gear, to spend tens of thousands of dollars to save maybe upwards of a couple of minutes over an Ironman distance. So if you're a triathlete and you're freaking out that you need to get the latest and greatest over $10,000 bike to replace your already $5,000 bike, stop freaking out, put the work in on training, and actually get faster that way. Yes, if you have no budget for triathlon, which I know a lot of triathletes that do, then go ahead and spend your money. But I do know so many triathletes that need to have the latest and greatest helmet, or the latest and greatest watch, or bike, especially race wheels. All this stuff is crazy expensive, and more than likely what you already have works. And yes, you might not look as cool having stock wheels or shallow race wheels versus having a full disc setup, but ultimately you just have to ask yourself the question, is it worth spending that money to save a few seconds or upwards of a minute or 2 over a long distance triathlon? I know some people who have actually upgraded their wheels. They got a deep dish rear wheel or even a disc, but they're not very good in crosswinds, and I would argue that their race wheels have actually made them slower in races, especially when it's windy out, because they're not as confident on a descent or going at really high speeds, because they will get that speed wobble because of the crosswind hitting them. And I'm like, yeah, your bike looks sweet, but you're probably 30 seconds or more slower than had you just have your stock wheels on. So ultimately, buying gear is fun, and yes, it can save us a few seconds, but in triathlon, it's very expensive. And just make sure, 1, you're not going in debt for it, and 2, you're not obsessing about it, that you need to upgrade your bike, which works perfectly fine, and all of that sort of stuff. Alright, and the last mistake that a lot of triathletes make, I know most of us are guilty of this, especially us type A people, is training way too hard. So in today's world of everyone has a race blog or race vlog, and everyone's showing on social media their amazing workouts that they're doing, whether or not they're true, it's pretty easy for us to feel inadequate amongst all of these people sharing all of this stuff and looking in and seeing what some of the top pro triathletes are doing and think, oh, if I want to get there, I need to replicate that, or maybe I can steal that and start winning my age group. And oftentimes we'll try to copycat someone else's training program who's just at a different ability or different life situation, and more often than not, it just doesn't work out. I think endurance athletes and triathletes especially are guilty of not knowing when to pump the brakes. I'm sure many of you know consistency is king. Having really a relatively boring training plan where you repeat the same things week after week is going to produce much better results than someone who goes out and tries to put in, an 8-hour training day on every Saturday. They're just going to get burnt out. And I've seen it hundreds of times, and I've been guilty of it dozens of times myself. Every triathlete I know has always had their best results when they've been consistent. They're not overexerting themselves and not going deep into the well workout after workout after workout. So kind of like I touched on the first 2 mistakes, don't worry what anyone else says, don't worry about what anyone else is doing. You got to do you. I get that it's hard. There's so many ways to get to where you want to go. Different things work for different people, but ultimately you got to find out what works for you. If you're not sure how, you could think about talking to a coach or getting a coach, and you want to be able to create a schedule that works for you and your life, and something that's going to help you be as consistent as possible in your training. If you do need a coach, I'll put a link down below in the description and you can reach out to me. I am accepting athletes for the rest of this year and then into 2020. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe for more everything running, triathlon, and nutrition related.